So I moved across the country this year. Listen, my brain doesn't work. I can barely finish games under normal circumstances, so there was no way I was getting like a massive list together this year. Also, I don't know if you noticed, I haven't uploaded much, which there's a couple reasons for. One is the whole brain thing. And also I just do this thing where I build up a video too much in my head before I even start working on it, which then just makes me want to spend forever getting ready for it instead of just doing it. So I'm gonna try and change things up a little. From here on out, I'm just gonna put out dog shit. From here on out, I'm gonna just make stuff. So in that vein, Game of the Year is gonna be a little more laid back this year. I still have a number one, but for the rest of it, I'm just gonna talk about some video games. I was lying. You've been tricked. This is an anime video now.
There's nothing you can do to stop it. This is the rest of your life now.
Licorice Recoil's so fucking good. To be honest, most anime gun choreography doesn't really do much for me. I'm sure there's good stuff out there. I'm sure people will tell me in the comments. But Licorice Recoil is definitely to my taste in that regard. It ends up feeling like a weird middle ground between John Wick and Equilibrium. It also has maybe the stupidest military leader I've ever seen in any piece of media. Her main strategy seems to be giving teenagers guns and then throwing them one after another into a meat grinder. I know they're going for satire, but that aspect never really seems to go anywhere. But what does go somewhere is the gay dad. He goes into my heart. Yeah, fucking fine, that fucking works, whatever. Chainsaw Man is very solid. I'm always gonna prefer the manga, but there's some really interesting adaptational choices here. I like how it's directed like Western live action, since that's always what Chainsaw Man's been the most inspired by. And for the record, I've been saying this since the first time I ever read the manga, but Kensuke Ushio is the perfect composer for this series. He just completely nails the tone. If you don't end up watching the show, I would still recommend listening to the soundtrack. The best thing I can say about the anime is that it's good enough that I'm willing to torture myself by experiencing the story of Chainsaw Man again. It's cute shows. Do It Yourself was really good. I like the visual style a lot. Bocchi the Rock is extremely not my shit, but I can't really dismiss how good the animation is, and the performance scenes are all great. Love Live continues to be Love Live. Anyways, fuck every single one of those shows. Anime of the year is easily Birdie Wing. It looks great, it's got great writing. The opening is a song called Penis Life. Again, that's Penis Life. It starts as a show about the mafia shooting people in the head over underground golf games, and then becomes an underwhelming school sports anime. It's so fucking exactly what every anime should be. It's really hard to talk about the Callisto Protocol without talking about Dead Space. Shares a lot of developers, it was poised as a spiritual successor, and the game itself is pretty clearly going for that whole deal. Considering how disastrous the end of the original Dead Space series was, it's understandable that a lot of people were expecting the world from this. Or should I say, expecting the moon? Should I? Would that be okay? I don't want to scare you away again. Callisto isn't terrible, but it's not good. It feels like some 360 game you forgot existed, which is normally something I can get into, but it's less binary domain and more... Yeah, that works. There are some potentially interesting plot points, I guess, but they're either spread so thin or show up so late that there's barely anything to hold on to for 90% of the game. And when you do find the rare audio log, which the game expects you to listen to while standing still in your inventory, by the way, they don't add anything. They all just boil down to characters saying they're about to die, or are in the process of dying, or don't want to die. In a game full of unfortunate but maybe understandable design decisions, the story is the one thing I find completely baffling. The game was originally intended to flush out the PUBG universe, but they apparently decided to run that back because they wanted to start their own. Now that we've seen what they started, I'm not sure why they felt the need. It's not great on its own merits, but it's especially not great compared to Dead Space. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 is Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. You shoot a gun, you kill a man. As far as I know, this one doesn't feature a real-life American war crime and then blame it on Russians. So, I mean, there is that, I guess. It does have a border crossing level. Why the fuck do we still make video games? Signalis gets compared to Silent Hill a lot, and I mean, with good reason. But I have a hard time seeing it any other way than just, damn, somebody finally did it. As someone who grew up Googling shit like obscure horror games, which usually just showed me the video game Obscure, I feel like I've seen all of this before. A game about mental illness with a lady stuck in some sort of cycle, and it makes me feel like shit and poop my pants. But it's never come together this well. Aesthetically, it's just perfect. I have no notes there. The CRT effects and the cutscene direction are both great. And the music is mostly minimal, but extremely effective. The story's really disjointed, on purpose, obviously, which meant it took a couple run-throughs to really get the full picture. But once you do, it's a really well-done meditation on basically everything that horror games are always a meditation on. But it is ruinously effective at getting those points across. Oh, I get it now. I wanna fucking die. It's sad, it's gay, it's even more like Silent Hill 1 than I originally thought, but when you take all the endings together, including the secret one, I think it's really beautiful. Did I mention gay robots? The Last of Us 2 is a game I have mixed feelings on. It has great combat and an unreal amount of environmental detail, bogged down by a story I just don't really care for. I used to be really disappointed in that game, mostly because I really loved the original and I would have loved a follow-up that spoke to the reasons I liked it, instead of taking it in maybe the least interesting direction possible. But I really stopped caring when I realized somebody else made one.
Father, do you ever wonder if you're doing the right thing?
No.
Okay.
God of War is fucking so good. It's an incredibly simple story made engaging through its character dynamics. It's like a Naughty Dog game if Naughty Dog wasn't embarrassed to be making video games. Ragnarok is kind of more of the same, a lot more of the same. But I played both of these games this year in pretty quick succession and didn't get burned out, so I don't know. I feel like it does enough that's new. I do wish characters would talk about 1/3 less.
There. Now we can open the other gate.
The game feels like it's afraid to let its atmosphere speak for itself, which is puzzling, considering the vibes. I'm fucking tired of open worlds. They used to be exciting because most of the people making them felt like they had a reason to be making them. The world either had a soul or there was some sort of gameplay idea that justified having all that space. Ideally both. Now it's just the default. Every game has to be open world because that's the easy way to cram it full of shit. It's exhausting. But From Software is pretty good at game worlds. To this day, I maintain if you took all the enemies out of the Dark Souls overworld and just left the boss fights, it would still be one of the best games ever made. And I don't love Elden Ring's world quite on that level, but it is, like, completely fucking stunning. Every vista, every interior, every fucked up little dude, all of it looks outstanding. I'll get my complaints out of the way real quick. The balance is wonky, the enemy variety is misplaced, a lot of the caves and dungeons feel redundant or uninteresting. But it's also one of the most uniquely rewarding games I've ever played. The list of different builds and options and just shit you can do is so long and varied that I end up liking Elden Ring more and more as time goes on and people online keep showing off new ways you can play the game and succeed. Alright, this is where I risk a gamer opinion. It's not as bad as having Halo Infinite as my #1 game of the year, and ranking ODST solo, that's fucking insane. I still 100% agree with it, but also putting Call of Duty Modern Warfare above a game explicitly about war propaganda and how it affects children through video games. But as far as Elden Ring goes, I think it would be even better if it was just a little easier. Some of the damage and EXP shit does kind of discourage experimentation, and there's always so much shit going on in stream. It's like, I think you could tame that up a little bit. This game is fucking annoying, to the point that I kind of have to respect it. It's the closest I've felt to the Dark Souls 1 thing, where I felt like I had to actually reinvent the way I'm looking at the game before I could get through it. And then I still died a fucking bunch, because everybody has 20-minute long attack strings. To be honest, I'm not sure I've seen anybody describe it better than this.
It's impossible! It's impossible, it's impossible. It's not possible. It's possible if you're very good at stuff, but it's impossible if you are not leveled correctly, and the guy's an optional encounter, you don't have to even fight this guy. I've been wasting 5 hours just trying to come back to fight this optional Golden Knight guy, and I don't have to do this. But I'm gonna do it again.
In a lot of ways, Elden Ring feels like the logical conclusion to the past decade of FromSoft games. Just about every playstyle or mechanic that's worked is present in some form or another. It's a big, dumb mess, but that's exactly how I like these games. And the fact that it's become so successful while still maintaining that heart is really encouraging. But it also fucking sucks, and it's the worst game I've ever played.